Hello everyone and welcome to Rollin'-ish. I'm Matt, and in this video we're looking at Xanathar's Guide to Everything, specifically the subclass options for the Sorcerer class. If you haven't done so already, take a look at our playlists, specifically the class playlist. There you will find videos that break down what you get when you choose a class, levels 1 through 20, as well as separate videos breaking down what you get as you choose that class's subclass options as they appear in your 2014 Player's Handbook. Xanathar's Guide to Everything was a book released shortly thereafter with supplemental options, so we'll be reviewing those. For Sorcerer, it starts out with the Divine Soul option for your Sorcerous Origin. This is going to be quite different than the rest of the Sorcerer class or subclass options because originally in your player's handbook, you either had wild magic or it was draconic ancestry that was handed down in your blood. And so your ability to use arcane magic was either wild or natural. The Divine Soul option is more akin to divine magic than it is arcane or elemental magic, as your magic comes from a deity. So the divine is your source of magic. How you could play this? Maybe you have some kind of angelic or celestial creature in your family lineage, and that has either been passed on through generations or skips generations and landed to you. You could play it where maybe your birth aligns with some kind of prophecy. So work with your DM on how to manifest that into your one-shot or your campaign. So those who play the Divine Soul Sorcerer are going to get some features right at first level when you choose this Sorcerous Origin, and then again at 6th, 14th, and 18th levels. Starting at that first level, your first feature you get is Divine Magic. Now, this is going to give you access to a spell based on your affinity. If you are a good aligned sorcerer, you will get access to a divine spell called Cure Wounds, which is going to allow you to cast a spell to heal yourself or someone else. Typically, this is reserved for the clerics, the paladins, bards, those who can tap into that type of energy to heal. So the fact that you could get a sorcerer to cast Cure Wounds is fantastic because the sorcerer mainly has their spell list from the arcane side of the fence, and which is where I think all the best spells are. But the fact that you can mingle in Cure Wounds without taking some kind of feat, I think is a great choice. But it's going to be for the good aligned. If you're evil aligned, you get the opposite. You get Inflict Wounds, where you touch a creature and necrotic energy siphons health from them. If you go with a law affinity, you gain the spell Bless, which essentially allows you or up to 3 creatures of your choice within range a blessing, which is essentially giving them a d4 that they can roll and add to an attack roll or saving throw. If you go with Chaos, you're going to get Bane. This is the opposite of Bless. Up to 3 creatures of your choice you can see within range, they need to make a charisma saving throw, and if they fail, they need to roll that d4 and deduct it from an attack roll or a saving throw. And then if you're neutral, you get a pretty neutral spell, Protection from Evil and Good. And what that does is prevents you from being charmed, frightened, or possessed in that way. So depending on the affinity you choose for your divine magic is the spell you'll get access to and will be able to prepare. Now, also at first level, you get a feature called Favored by the Gods. If you fail a saving throw or miss with an attack roll, you can roll 2d4 and add it to the total, possibly changing the outcome. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. This is some kind of... it almost reminds me of luck, but with a deity, nothing's lucky, it's all determined. So I feel like the Favored by the Gods, it's great because you could potentially turn a miss into a hit, and that would be fantastic for those attack rolls. And like I said, for a saving throw, a miss into a success could be everything. It could be life or death. So the fact that you get that right at first level is a great feature. At 6th level, you get Empowered Healing. Whenever you or an ally within 5 feet of you rolls dice to determine the number of hit points a spell restores, like with Cure Wounds or Prayer of Healing, things like that, You can spend a sorcery point to reroll any number of those dice once, provided you aren't incapacitated. So if someone within 5 feet of you is rolling, and you see that they're rolling a bunch of 1s and 2s, you can re-roll the dice you choose. Leave the 6s and the 5s on the table, but take your chances with maybe the others and see if you can get a higher outcome. That'll maximize their healing potential. At 14th level, you get Otherworldly Wings. You can use a bonus action to manifest a pair of spectral wings from your back. While the wings are present, you have a flying speed of 30 feet. The wings last until you're incapacitated, you die, or you dismiss them as a bonus action. The affinity you choose for your divine magic determines the appearance of those spectral wings. For example, they could look like eagle's wings for a good or a law. It could look like bat wings for evil or chaos, or maybe dragonfly or butterfly or insect type wings for neutral, just for flavor. At 18th level, you get Unearthly Recovery. As a bonus action, when you have fewer than half your hit points, you can regain a number of hit points equal to half your hit point max. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. This is a great way to combine healing properties into a sorcerer who typically sorcerers and wizards have the best spells, in my opinion, because they are mainly spellcasters. They have more access to spells, more spells to choose from, more spell slots. So the fact that you have the ability to go with a good affinity and get yourself Cure Wounds is great. The fact that you can at 18th level just heal up to half your max, that's another great ability to have to keep your sorcerer upright, because remember, you do not have a lot of hit points. You do not wear a lot of armor. You can't. So you are squishy and at risk. So these two are great features to have to incorporate into your sorcerer, especially if you don't have a healer like a cleric in your party. Okay. The next Sorcerous Origin we can look at in Xanathar's is Shadow Magic. This is going to be for if you want to weave the Shadowfell into your backstory. Maybe that's where your family's from. Maybe that's where you're from. Maybe your ancestry has some Shadowfell vibes in your backstory. Because the Shadowfell is directly influencing your very nature. So maybe you could roleplay it or put in your backstory that you've got lineage to some kind of entity that is from there. Stradvan Sarovich's great-great-great-granddaughter, or something like that, if you're familiar with Curse of Strahd, which takes place in the Shadowfell. Those are just good suggestions to maybe to utilize at your table. But as far as your shadow magic features go, you get a few additional ones. You get options at 1st level, 3rd, 6th, 14th, and 18th. Starting at 1st level, when you choose this subclass, you get Eyes of the Dark. It gives you dark vision with a range of 120 feet. Now, if you already have dark vision, odds are it could be 30 or 60 feet. So this is going to give you a much, much longer range, even if you already have dark vision. When you reach 3rd level in this class, you'll learn the Darkness spell, which doesn't count against the number of spells that you know. In addition, you can cast it by spending 2 sorcery points or using a spell slot. So that gives you some versatility there. If you cast it with sorcery points, you can see through the darkness created by the spell. Also at 1st level, you get a feature called Strength of the Grave. When damage reduces you to 0 hit points, you can make a charisma saving throw. The DC is going to be 5 plus the damage taken that knocked you to 0. You have to roll meet or beat that. On a success, you drop to 1 hit point instead. You can't use this feature if you're reduced to 0 hit points by radiant damage or a critical hit. And that is because creatures of the Shadowfell sometimes have a vulnerability to radiant damage. Or maybe they don't have a vulnerability, but they just don't like it. So you need to look at this from an area of the divine stifling your Strength of the Grave. And then a critical hit, that just makes sense. Like a critical hit should just be a success. You should fall to 0. After the saving throw succeeds, you can't use this feature again until you finish a long rest. Obviously, if you fail, nothing happens. You're already at 0. But if you succeed, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. When you get to 6th level, you get a feature called the Hound of Ill Omen. As a bonus action, you can spend 3 sorcery points to magically summon a Hound of Ill Omen to target one creature you can see within 120 feet. The Hound uses the Direwolf statistics. with the following changes. The Hound is medium, not large, and it counts as a monstrosity, not a beast, because it's a magical effect. It appears within a number of temporary hit points equal to your sorcerer level. So getting this at 6th level, it's going to be 3 hit points. Temporary hit points, on top of whatever it gets in the Direwolf stats, which I believe is going to be 37. So 37 plus half your sorcerer level as temporary hit points. It can move through other creatures and objects as if it were difficult terrain, because it's spectral. The Hound takes 5 force damage if it ends its turn inside an object. At the start of its turn, the Hound automatically knows the target's location. If the target was hidden, it is no longer hidden from the Hound. Oh man, you're not getting away from this dog. The Hound appears in an unoccupied space of your choice within 30 feet. Roll initiative for the Hound. Okay, so it gets its own initiative order. That's cool. On its turn, it can move only towards its target by the most direct route, and it can use its action only to attack the target. So it's not your servant, it's not your pet, it's not your buddy. It is a combatant. The Hound can make opportunity attacks, but only against its target. Additionally, while the Hound is within 5 feet of the target has disadvantage on saving throws against any spell that you cast. That's beautiful. The Hound disappears if it's reduced to 0 hit points, if the target is reduced to 0 hit points, or after 5 minutes, which is like, I don't know, 30 turns, 30 rounds of combat. All right, so that is a very cool thing, but you got to remember, the Hound of Ill Omen is not an animal. It is a magical effect, and it is basically going to sick your target, if you dog lovers out there are cool with that term. Shadow Walk is a feature you get at 14th level when you're in dim light or darkness. As a bonus action, you can magically teleport up to 120 feet to an unoccupied space you can see that is also in dim light or darkness. This kind of reminds me of, for you DMs out there, the Bone Claw monster, who can kind of do the same thing, like teleport within shadows. Love that. I love this feature because it really is armor for your sorcerer, the ability to dip out and just teleport. And the way I rule teleportation is they don't incur opportunity attacks. I don't know if all DMs play it that way, but that's how I do it. Because you're literally, by the time you try to react to hit on them moving, they're gone. They disappeared. They snap. So I think that's a great way to keep yourself safe if you're playing this kind of sorcerer. At 18th level, you get Umbral Form. You can spend 6 sorcery points as a bonus action to magically transform yourself into a shadowy form. In this form, you have resistance to all damage except force and radiant damage, and you can move through creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain. You take 5 force damage if you end your turn inside an object. You remain in this form for 1 minute. It ends early if you're incapacitated, you die, or you dismiss it as a bonus action. So I love this because I see so much potential to play a shadow magic sorcerer, whether you want to go the evil route, whether you want to toe the line. I really think it has so much potential for a good aligned sorcerer to have this in their background. Maybe like the way I would role play it is something I can't control. I can't control the family that I was born into. I can't control what kind of lineages are in my blood or who's in my bloodline. I can only control me. And so the fact that I have this unnatural affinity to darkness but want to use it for good, I just see so much potential in a character like that. So I've yet to play a sorcerer personally, but this is probably a subclass I would put in my top choices to consider. So have fun building that. Next, we have Storm Sorcery. So a Storm Sorcerer is going to get their power from like elemental air. Perhaps you are Stormborn. So for those Game of Thrones fans, Daenerys Targaryen, the Stormborn, she was born in a terrible gale, and that it kind of fueled her reputation and her nicknames throughout the series. This could be that. You could have been born in a hurricane and the elements were put at unease by your birth. Maybe you're an invaluable member of a ship's crew. Something like that is a good way to play a Storm Sorcerer. You're going to get features at 1st, 6th, 14th, and 18th levels. Starting at 1st level, when you choose the Sorcerous Origin, you get Wind Speaker. You can speak, read, and write Primordial. Knowing this language allows you to understand and be understood by those who speak its dialects. Aquan, Auran, Ignan, and Terran. Those are the languages that are spoken by water, air, earth, and fire elementals, who would be primordial titans or primordial beings, which makes sense for you to be able to speak primordial. So that is a great tie-in to your backstory and to your origin, however you want to write this character. I think that's a great option. You also get Tempestuous Magic at first level. You can use a bonus action on your turn to cause a whirling gust of elemental air to briefly surround you, immediately before or after you cast a spell of first level or higher. Doing so allows you to fly up 10 feet without provoking opportunity attacks. I love this for flavor so much, especially if I'm going to deliver a high level spell. Getting this at first level, you don't really have many high level spells, but like if I'm going to do a dramatic casting of like Fireball or something with an area of effect to rise up off the ground, not provoking opportunity attacks, to gain a vantage point and cast my spell, I think is so cool and badass for the flavor and the description of how this spell gets cast. Don't be afraid to do those things and tie things like this in. This seems like a small, flavorful thing, but it is awesome to be able to do that, because now if I am flying up to 10 feet, I end my turn 10 feet in the air. So if there are melee attackers near me, they're going to have to start firing ranged weapons if I'm out of their reach. So there's more to it than just a flavor piece, although the flavor piece is still very, very cool. Okay, at 6th level, you get Heart of the Storm. You gain resistance to lightning and thunder damage. That makes sense. In addition, whenever you start casting a spell of first level or higher that deals lightning or thunder damage, stormy magic energy erupts from you. This eruption causes creatures of your choice that you can see within 10 feet of you to take lightning or thunder damage. Choose each time this ability activates, equal to half your sorcerer level. Okay, so if you're dealing something that's lightning damage, it's like the lightning is coming off your body and hitting people within 10 feet of you, only dealing enough damage for half your sorcerer level. So at most at 20th level, it's 10 points. But just for being near you and being near your body as it is surging with this energy, they're going to take thunder damage if you're casting a thunder spell, or lightning if you're casting a lightning spell. I think that is so sick. This is like the most anime or comic book subclass out there. Very, very cool. Even for flavor. Heart of the Storm, that is a great feature. Okay. At 6th level, you get Storm Guide. You basically are going to be able to control the weather around you. If it's raining, you can use an action to cause the rain to stop falling in a 20-foot radius sphere centered on you. You can end this effect as a bonus action. If it's windy, you can use a bonus action each round to choose the direction of the wind in a 100-foot radius sphere centered on you. The wind blows in that direction until the end of your turn. This feature doesn't alter the speed of the wind. Okay, so if you're outdoors and there's a fireball and things ignite, because that's what fireball does, this could basically maybe help put that out. You know, there's mechanical things that could work for Storm Guide, but man, it is just very cool to see the elements at work while you're just doing your thing. I love it. Storm's Fury at 14th level. When you're hit by a melee attack, you can use a reaction to deal lightning damage to the attacker. The damage equals your sorcerer level. So at most at 20th level, it's 20 damage, and so on. The attacker must also make a strength saving throw against your sorcerer spell save DC. On a fail, the attacker is pushed in a straight line up to 20 feet away from you. I love this, especially if you can line up yourself and your potential attacker so that they can be maybe in front of some kind of hole or trap, because you can blow them right off a bridge, right off a roof, something like that, to use these features to your advantage. I really think that is an awesome one. I'm becoming, the more we're going on, the more of a fan I'm becoming of Storm Sorcery. Okay, at 18th level, you get a feature called Wind Soul. You gain immunity to lightning and thunder damage. You also gain a flying speed of 60 feet. As an action, you can reduce your flying speed by 30 feet for 1 hour and choose a number of creatures within 30 feet of you equal to 3 plus your charisma modifier. The chosen creatures gain a magical flying speed of 30 feet for an hour. What? Once you reduce your flying speed in this way, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. What good is that 60 flying speed if the rest of your party has to walk? That's how I see that. So if I sacrifice 30 of that 60 feet, I can choose up to 3 plus my charisma modifier number of people to give them a flying speed of 30, and now we can all travel together. The potential hazards you avoid by doing that, a speed of 30 feet for an hour could get you a pretty long distance. So I see this as being, oh man, this might be my favorite sorcerer subclass I've seen so far. Okay. I think that is a great feature to have. Storm Sorcerer, I think, is rocking it. Xanathar's Guide to Everything. I think so far, Sorcerer probably has the best subclass options I've seen. No offense to my other classes, but this is great. Next up, we're going to be taking a look and a deep dive at Warlock. But until then, keep rolling those dice, and we'll see you at the table.